What's up, pinball people? Welcome to In Before the Lock, episode 14. I'm Rob with the Electric Playground. We've got Davey with Stumbler. Davey, how you doing, man?
I'm really well, man. I'm really good, thanks. Yeah, just come off a nice weekend down in Dorset. So I picked up a bit of a suntan in the sun. London's super cold, so it was nice to get some sun for a change.
Looking good. Well, we've got a very special episode today. We're going to be talking about pinball mods usually, but today it's about much more than that. We've got Melvin Williams with DPX Dutch Pinball exclusives. Welcome, Melvin, to the show, man.
How you doing, guys? Thank you for
having
Melvin.
Me. Pleasure, man.
Great to have you. We spent a bunch of time with Melvin yesterday. We've got a packed show. This thing's going to be probably more on the 2-hour side just because there's so much to go over. I'm really excited for everybody to hear about this. You know, we're always looking for great stuff to talk about. Davey and I were brainstorming on, things or people to talk with. And Davey, you've known Melvin for a little while. What's up with you guys, and how did this all come to be?
Yeah, so, people might remember the Funhouse 2 that Pedretti Pinball released probably a couple of years ago now. It was kind of pre-Stumbler Pinball sort of taking off and me being sort of, really, going hard. So it was like pre-Tokyo Neon sort of days. I was doing modding and stuff, but not really on the scale that I was now. So I was sort of a bit more involved in sort of these sort of side projects that were going on. And there were a bunch of people that sort of put their hand up to become sort of beta testers for Pedretti at that time. And I didn't really know any of the other guys on the project, but one of them was Melvin, wasn't it, mate?
Yep, that's true.
Yeah. So we worked on that one together and exchanged PMs over the course of the project. And then I asked you, I think you might have mentioned to me that you knew Barry at Dutch. And I, I asked you nicely if you wouldn't mind putting in a good word for me because I needed a speaker panel for Bride of Pinbot too. And you very kindly, and Barry very kindly, sent over this beautiful brand new speaker panel for me to use on that game. So I guess that was my first inkling that you were sort of tight with Dutch, I suppose.
Yeah, it was the case. I was really not working with them yet, but I was already in talks with Barry about some stuff, and I was already in the factory and doing some stuff. So around that time was where I met Davey and the whole DP family started. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is great because you guys just put out an official teaser on Alice in Wonderland, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what to come because we're going to cover a ton of stuff. We've been getting a ton of questions coming in. Everyone's like, don't softball this guy. Like, we got to hear all the nitty gritty. That's definitely not going to happen on this show. We want to give you guys some backstory because you're going to be hearing a lot of terms and a lot of people that are involved in the lead up to this game. Not just, hearing about John Papaduke, but some of the other controversy around this. There's a locker full of content that Melvin acquired that is super cool story that we're going to hear about. And of course, a little bit more about the partnership. Then we're going to move into getting into the game itself. So there's been no, footage revealed of this game, but we're going to talk a lot about what's to come. Ton of open questions. So we're going to be very excited to hear about that. Talk a little bit about pricing, or at least what we know to date. And then also like how you guys are going to build all these things, because we know, building machines isn't easy. So, we're learning about how Melvin's bringing a ton of experience to Dutch and super excited to hear about that. We'll hit a ton of audience questions. So if you guys want to ask questions throughout the show, we're going to hit those in the third section, which will be sometime in the second hour of the show. Talk a little bit about modding and what mod opportunities there are with integrating with the machine and in general, and what's the future hold for DPX and for Dutch. So we're going to get all into it. So Melvin, like, kind of tell us a little bit about this partnership and how this is all coming to be, and what do we know to date about Alice that you can share?
So I think I have to start from the very beginning, I believe, to give you more insight about Alice and the whole experience from the lockers, and then we'll probably end up with my relationship with Dutch and with Barry making into DPX. So, as some people might read online that at some point they sued Jpop for I think 19 or 21 people who got stung by the Magic Girl fiasco and that sort of stuff. And they found out that John had 2 lockers somewhere. So they took possession of those lockers and eventually tried to sell those off. And so they took some pictures of it, but it was just global pictures. Nobody knew exactly what was in there. I think some people showed some interest, but nothing that was to become a deal. So I was in the talkings, and I said, "Listen, I know some people in the Chicago area. If you really, I'm really interested. This is my offer, and I just, I'm not gonna keep it in a locker. I just want to make sure that whatever's in there, if I can do something with it, I'll take it out." So we reached an agreement, and I believe that that money went. So the money I paid to the attorney, I think that was split to all the people who got some money from it back. And then I just took a gamble. I looked at the pictures. I asked for more pictures. Nobody knew what was in the boxes, so it was a gamble for me also. It's like we talked about it yesterday. It's like storage wars. You open it up, it's like, oh, what's in there? Even though it's a bit controversial.
When did you open them for the first time? Was that in the States, or did you take them home first to look at them?
Yeah. So I had a friend of mine, Christopher from Pinball Pleasure. He helped me gather all the stuff. So we put everything in a container, get it to my place, and then it was like Christmas because every box is a price. So in there were some Razza cabinets with some old art. There was a prototype Magic Girl machine in there, 2 of them. And then I went through all the boxes, and behold was Jpop's life work from his days from the 1980s up till when he left, I think, American Pinball. So there was a lot of prototyping stuff in there, a lot of drives from his Williams days, even unreleased things, MacBooks, all computers. So I looked through all those computers, and there was so much in there. And of course, there was also some sketches in there from Alice. So I went through that because that was the game that really intrigued me. It was never finished. It was just a paper mock-up. And so I put that on the side, and then I also contacted Jpop because there were some personal items in that locker, like pictures from his kids, high school diplomas, all that stuff that I think no matter what you've done in life, that should belong back to you. That has nothing to do with anything from this pinball industry. So I contacted him, couldn't reach him. Eventually, I could have get a hold of him through an email. He said, "Just send all the stuff over. I appreciate it." And then he started talking with me, and he said, like, "Oh, I can be your silent partner if you want to," and all that stuff. And I told him, so I'm going to tell for the whole world, just to start off with. Yes, I was in contact with John. I declined and thanked him that I don't want to be a part of him. He never hurt me in any way, but he hurt a lot of people and everything around it. And for the whole world to know right now, Jpop is not involved in Alice. He will never be involved. He doesn't make a single cent of the games, and he will never be involved or make anything in the future of this. So this is clear for the whole world now that that's been said and done. This was my contact with him. And to get back to the whole Alice story is like, I seen the line art. I seen some design drawings, like, how do you say it? Some of the ball guides and that sort of stuff. So I thought, it's intriguing. Rams are not finished. It was like 10%, but it was John's, I think, idea to maybe get a little bit more money in, but it was already at the end. And of course, it had the Jeremy Becker Zombie Yeti art on it. Like, everybody knows that line art from that Translite. And I was really, really intrigued into that game. And I looked at some potential in it. And then I first had to look into the direction of, okay, who owns the rights at this moment? And that was Pinball. So I reached out to him and I said, listen, I'm interested in maybe doing something from Alice. So we came to some sort of an agreement. And then I already was in the talks with Barry. And I explained, so listen, I bought the lockers and the Alice in Wonderland is in there in some sort of ways with some art and that stuff. And he's like, you think you can build that game? I said, well, if I look at the pictures, there's a lot of stuff that just wasn't finished. Nothing was done to the game. If you look at a picture right now, it's, on paper, everything works, but it has a strange magnet in front of the ramp or something. And if you look into the back, those ramps go to nowhere. Nothing was finished. The ball couldn't even get up there. So
that's classic J-pop ramps going nowhere, man.
Yeah. So, but it looks, J-pop has a type of, I don't know, he has a type of feeling to those games. This is why you have like the like Circus Voltaire or Toten or all those Magic Girl. They have a kind of atmosphere, that you think you probably understand.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about some of the background with J-pop, because you make this announcement on Wednesday last week, and on the typical channels, Facebook and Pinside, like, you're going to get a lot of comments about anything that people can pick on a project about, and there was a bunch of stuff about J-pop, lots of questions about why are we bringing this guy stuff back, why can't we just let it die? And I really started to do my research and realize, like, even as someone who's very into pinball, I didn't really have a full picture of this story. So one thing we want to do is just kind of help everybody get up to speed on this a little bit, because a lot of the games that he made you've played and you might not even realize it. So Melvin was kind of talking about how in the 90s we had games from J-pop, World Cup Soccer, Tales of Arabian Nights, Theater of Magic, Circus Voltaire. World Cup Soccer is a pretty famous game because it really introduced a lot of people to pinball because of some of the mechanics. So, this guy is building these games, and ultimately, about 10 years later, he creates this company called Zidware. They make Magic Girl, Retro Atomic Zombie Adventureland, and they're taking deposits on this game, quite a few deposits. Beautiful games, but like ultimately never come to market. A lot of money is, tied up in that. And that's where a lot of this controversy comes from, is like, are these people going to get paid back if you're using this stuff? Is the artist Zombie Yeti, who's now, famous in the pinball space for doing stuff with Stern, is he going to get compensated? So like a lot of questions are happening about that. But ultimately, this property gets tied up in all these companies. I don't think a lot of people know about American touching it, a company called Pantasia, of course, Deeproot. Ultimately goes to Turner. And then you guys get together, and Melvin, you've got a lot of experience with licensing with Big Bang Bar and Kingpin. So ultimately, you guys are building this new brand to bring these exclusive titles to market. I mean, is that like what's going on with DPX? Is it's about rebuilding things, or just taking one game at a time, and Alice happened to be first?
No, it's not that we have a list. It's like Alice was just a first title, and DPX was also created because I believe in exclusivity. I think that is today's market, that limited or collectors is not that limited anymore. And like I said before, my initial goal was like 350 on this game. And Barry's like, maybe 500 is a better thing. And I'm like, okay, let's do that then. For me, it's more that this is also why I wanted to put something from Alice out in the world so we can have this conversation. And it's Alice is just, I want to prove with Alice that I just can make a game, get it to market without any pre-order money, because the game development is fully funded by us, me and Barry. So I just want to show that let me bring out Alice, and then we'll see what happens next. I'm not saying, maybe because we're so busy doing other stuff with Dutch that it's going to take a few more years, and maybe there's another title coming up. So it's not set that after Alice there is a Kingpin or a Big Bang Bar or a Razza or Magic or whatever. For now, the focus is on Alice, and that's
I kind of go ahead, Davey. Go ahead.
No, you go, mate. You go.
Yeah, I think that everyone is really curious about this, right? Like why start with Alice in Wonderland, and why what I think, well, at least what I know, and you can confirm for us here on the show, is like you're not trying to take this in a different direction than where some of this started. I mean, you're wanting to, bring some of this vision to life, right? Is that why are you doing it that way? Because that's the controversial thing.
Because so from every conversation I read online, everybody's like, oh, I always see that Alice in Wonderland game coming up as a conversation piece, like, oh, it's just a shame this one never to market, This was also the game that I think almost none pre-orders were paid for. And this was always a sort of conversation piece. And when I looked through all the files and I looked at all the close-ups and all the stuff I had, I was like, I'm more intrigued to, I can make this work. I can make this game. Not to sound, too arrogant or stuff, but I thought, and you have Jpop, and I like his designs. I think most people like his designs because or else nobody's burning up their Totem or Circus Voltaire or whatever. They enjoy that game. He as a person is something else. But and I already invested money into the lockers and all that stuff, and then later acquired all the stuff from Turner. So it was just easier for me to already take what I have and try to make something. And trust me, the first Whitewood I built, the Rams didn't go anywhere. The Rams didn't shoot. So I had to redesign the whole game.
I mean, look, I think out of those games that you got from the lockers, I mean, if you were going to bring one of those games to market, Alice is certainly the obvious choice out of those. I mean, I think that Magic Girl, Razza, they've got a lot more built up resentment towards them than this game does. That's for sure. I mean, obviously you would have started at a better place in terms of what assets you had, but this is the one with the least amount of controversy attached to it.
True. Yeah, and also because from the demand, what I see online, and people like this game, even though Alice is not the type of man theme. It's not the you run to your guys, oh, look, I got Alice in Wonderland. It's more like I got the Matrix or whatever. It's not that manly thing, but I think you can, because it's Alice in Wonderland, you can do a lot of things. You can create your own. You can. I had also more of a free hand.
Yeah. So okay, so we saw those mock-ups earlier on that graphic, Rob. And we saw the ramps going to nowhere. It's still obviously a J-pop looking game. It's got these. He's got these curly ramps, very whimsical. Lots of you can see sort of elements of Circus Voltaire there with the sort of the spirals and things like that. And there's obviously a couple of other design elements that stand out. It's got an upper playfield. It's got what looks like two Magna flippers on that upper playfield, similar to Twilight Zone. And then it's got like a Theater of Magic style magnet over that right ramp there. But outside of that, there's some pop bumpers, and that's about it, right? So, tell me what I'd really love to know. And obviously, we're not going to be seeing any gameplay footage during this thing. We're just sort of talking about the game. So, imagine that you're not Melvin, and you're walking up to the game that you made as as somebody who's never seen it before, and you go up and you play a game of it. Describe to me sort of what that feels like to play that game. Pinball can be fast, it can be slow, it can be challenging, it can be have describe to me how what it's like to play your game.
So for me, the most important part that it was there, that if you walk up to a game and it should have a certain aesthetic. I like when you walk to a game and it looks packed in a way that you see there's a lot of things going on. So every time you look at a game, you see something new. That's what I like. Also in art-wise. And I want a game that is fun for my 10-year-old to walk up to that and to be sucked into a world, to experience something, and to have great fast ramp shots. To have it has a really fast orbit shot in there that, and also some very tight shots for experienced players. So there's something for everybody. So I want that the game is fun for let's say for a 10-year-old. And then if somebody steps up who's more of a good pinball player, he's going to notice that there are some tight shots he's got to work for. And it's like, I can tell you right now, yes, the mini Playfield has the Magna flippers, but I can tell you right now, if you think you can bash those buttons that the ball goes there, I can tell you it doesn't work. You really need to play that magnet Playfield if you're like playing with your flippers. So you need to, make use of the rebounds and of the rubbers. So you will find out more and more once you go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So the deeper you dive into the game, so it's like from a rule set, I try to go deep, but also very flat for the people who just want to have fun in pinball. And that's one thing I believe at this stage in pinball is a little bit hard, because sometimes I see people play the game and it's so difficult to see exactly what you need to do that I see them struggle to have fun because they don't know what to do. And I still want that in this game, that if you don't know what to do, that you have fun shooting fast ramps or making a lock system and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Tell us about, so one of the interesting things, you acquire these assets, and some of these games have some seriously interesting screens going on. This is actually a photo that Melvin shared with us before the show. This is his collection. He happens to have 3 of these. And you'll see that this game was kind of famous because it had this screen on the lockdown bar. So that's actually like a screen down there below. You've got a screen in the back. And then we saw just now with Alice, there was actually a screen in the Playfield, which was kind of like Circus Voltaire. Like, what's going to happen with the screens on this game? Are you going to have 3 of these guys, or what should we expect?
So this is a picture of Razza. So it's because we talked about a Razza. At this stage, Razza is not on my list. It's the same as when I acquired all the rights from Chris. I had to protect everything, so I acquired all the IP and everything around it, and the machines and the inventory. And I just, because it was part of a package deal, with Alice, and Magic Girl and some other titles, thankfully people have not yet discovered, so good luck. But it was just more, and it's the same with the trademarks and everything. I just have to protect what is mine, for the future. But at this stage, even though these 3 games are now fully playable, I fixed them up. I put the good ramps in there now, so they shoot really well. But it's not something that I want to talk about right now or to put to market, just because I first want to get Alice out, and Alice is the thing that we are focusing on. And that's all that's important. I just want to show the
But
world.
we're not going to see the pin bar on Alice. That's more.
No, never. No.
Okay.
But what I can say,
just
but
100%
what I can
confirmed.
say a little bit about the game is that it does have a Playfield screen, not in the back.
Wait, can you say it again? I'm not following what you're
sorry.
saying.
So
Playfield.
we implemented a screen on the Playfield.
Yeah,
to
so
be a part of
embedded within the playfield. So
No. It's
Screen. Okay.
It's a screen. So
Yeah.
it has just the main screen and has a screen on the playfield, not in the playfield.
Okay, got it. Now let's
So
talk
is
a little
this
bit
game?
about.
I mean, we're going to
Sorry,
see
Rob.
the ramps are going to look like this. Is that
Yes.
kind of what to expect?
Yes.
Okay. And,
Yes.
and talk to us about the zombie Yeti artwork. Like, are we going to see something similar to this?
Okay, talking about Jeremy Packer. So I contacted him when I acquired everything, and I had a quick chat with him about it. He was a great guy to talk with. He was really responsive and understanding from my point what I wanted. And he also told me, like, you know what? I did this stuff in, I think, 2012 or 13. He said I was in a different zone. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't because he worked for Stern. And he also said there's so much going on with it that I just don't want to be a part of it, you know? But he also said if you need anybody who can color it up or do whatever you want, I can steer you in the direction. So he was pretty okay with me, you know, even maybe it was not something he favored of, but and for me it's like everybody's like, why? So what you see right there, the translate, is what everybody knows. So if I change that, it's the same as I changed the whole concept of the game. So we have
so using that translate.
Yes, we are using that translate, but we have some extras put into that. We made some changes. Our artist that worked on TBL, Fake, he not only colorized the translate, but we created a complete new art package. So
he's working on the Playfield art.
Playfield art, cabinet art,
content, like video content.
He's working with a company together in also creating all that stuff. So we are the main translate is from Zombie Yeti Jeremy, with some extras from us, and then we done the whole new Playfield cabinet and that sort of stuff from scratch. We took a little bit, sometimes a figure or some things from the translate to just implement on the Playfields.
Yeah.
But most of it is brand new.
Yeah, and so this is all hand drawn by humans. There's been some talk on Pinside. We should just cover this. Something we talked about last night.
AI.
There's no AI.
No, I don't know what was up with the algorithm off that Facebook stuff, but I can. We have every art where we started, all the lines, and so I can tell you that the art you're looking at, that the playfields and everything, no, forget about it. That doesn't look anymore like that. And if I can, maybe I can have a little bit of scoop. So people think the game's got to be pretty dark. It's going to be pretty colorful.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question that I wanted to cover. Yeah. So obviously Jpop games have got like a real aesthetic to them, don't they?
Oh yes.
So were you driven by that aesthetic in this game? Was that something you were constantly referencing?
Yep.
Okay. So this
maybe
will look like a
sometimes a little
Jpop game
bit
to walk up to it.
Yes, I think you can see this game from miles away in a good way. You know, I want it, and it's like every time something was drawn, and I was like, oh, I want to pop a little bit more, and Barry's like, no, tone it down a bit, because, and so eventually we got it to a good point. But yeah, we changed a lot. Also from some shots I changed to the game because they just didn't work, or they were placed what I thought in a way. Because on paper, everything works. You have no limits. Like if you look at the ramp now with the magnet on there, I don't know what he wanted. I think you shoot up the ramp and then the magnet just flips it onto the play. I don't know what he wanted. I can tell you that doesn't work. It's not in the game because I want a game that works.
Yeah. So
and ramps that go somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's a step one, I would have thought. But so you, when it came to obviously his vision or whatever from this mock-up, obviously you wanted to hew towards the original design as much as possible because you were using it. But there would have been a decision you would have had to have made, right? Like if a shot didn't work, then you couldn't keep it and it was gone. Is that
Correct.
kind of the decision-making process?
Yes. But then also at the same time, when it's not working, what you got to fill in that spot for. So what do you do? And it was sometimes a little bit hard to get, sometimes I put somewhere, and like I said, I had days where I just put a post and then go over there and then go over there because he just didn't do right by his lines. Because the only thing that we had was just ball guide lines. That was it. And that paper mock-up photos you see right there. And the rest around.
We had a question from Carrie Hardy pre-show, asking about the Jpop design, like on a percentage basis, like how much of this is Jpop, would you say, when it's all said and done?
From an aesthetic point, I think from aesthetics, if you look at it, 70%, 75%. From the looks.
And what about the ball guides and the positions of those ball guides?
No, they changed. I changed those. So not maybe by much, but I can tell you from what I was looking on the CAT files, what he had or what he done in V5 or 6, it was nothing much. There was a lot of stuff that was there, but I couldn't work it out because I didn't have the information, and I'm not going to ask Jpop to, can you help me? I'm not doing that.
Yeah, because then it's going against what you were saying by his assistants. But I mean, this would just happen ordinarily in the process of making a game anyway, right? Like, we've heard stories about Theatre of Magic being, incredibly unshootable, in its original form until, people got involved and corrected the physics of it. So, I would assume that, any design like this would have to go through multiple iterations before it's shot right,
So I had 2 or 3 prototypes before I dialed everything in. And then from there, I just added stuff to make everything better to the aesthetics and to adding certain points to make it work to my vision. And then maybe if John sees the game, he's like, I never intended to be like that, but this was my iteration to making it what I believe was a good working game with some new shots in there, some tight shots. And so from the looks, I think we did a pretty good job making it looking the same. But I can guarantee you that of course, it had a screen in the back. In my game, from when I designed it, I couldn't even put even if I wanted to, the screen could never be in the back of the cabinet because you won't see it because of the height of the mini playfield.
Yeah.
So we are not looking at questions at this point, but we are going to get back to game and layout design, especially when we get into questions. Just for right now, I kind of want to move us into like modes and video and audio assets, and also tell us about the name of this game and like why that is and how that ties into modes, because you were sharing a little bit with us on that.
Yeah. So as everybody know, it was Alice in Wonderland. When I dig into that whole Alice in Wonderland and Alice's Adventures in Wonderland from a public domain view and that sort of stuff, and from what I had in mind, it's like, I think in 1951 or 53, I know Disney put a copyright or trademark on Alice in Wonderland. And I know everybody's using Alice in Wonderland title, but why risk it all when you know that if you change it a little bit, like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, it's public domain. Everybody can use that. So I don't want to trigger something that's not. And also it's convenient because everybody knows the Alice in Wonderland kind of stories, but then from the Disneys or whatever. And it's like, White Rabbit and all that stuff in between, and then the Queen of Hearts. And that is all nice. And my modes will talk you through all those steps. But what I also wanted to create is maybe something that we can always implement more adventures that are maybe not so familiar in the Alice in Wonderland franchise. So maybe, I don't know, certain side quests can be new that was never there to be part of the Alice in Adventures, instead of just Alice in Wonderland. And if you don't follow the lines, everybody's like, oh, you didn't follow that line because she has to do this or he has to do that. No, it's pinball. We can create whatever we want. This is what is nice about pinball. You want to have an experience. And it's the same that I don't like games that are linear, that always start at the same mode. So if you start the game and you want to follow the White Rabbit because that's how the story goes, you can. But if you choose to do something else, do your thing, and this is something. So it's implementing two things. So it's the trademark copyright from Disney, so we can put that aside, and it's opened up a little bit of more of an adventure list, so we can implement. I don't know, maybe we hear from the feedback from the community. They wanted a special thing or they want something else. There's then always that option that we can implement a side mission or even add more modes to certain inserts, because we don't name inserts like a mission you're on, but we name it to, let's say, the White Rabbit. And then the White Rabbit can, I don't know, you follow the path, or you can do something else with the White Rabbit.
So you mentioned those characters, the White Rabbit, the Cheshire Cat, the Mad Hatter. I mean, these are all recognizable Alice in Wonderland characters. Yep. So they're all within the game, presumably.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. They're all in the game. There are also some characters that we have on the cabinet, and at this stage we haven't have a mode for yet, because it was the same when I was talking to Barry about what do we do, and also about art. There are just some characters we just didn't like on the art. So of course there are some characters that are not on the art yet, or can be eventually be added to modes or whatever. So this is something but all the main stuff that you expect to be in the game, they're there.
Great. And I mean, this comment came up earlier. It might have been Don who asked it, but and do you play as Alice?
You play as Alice. You are okay. Alice. But I also want that Alice is on, because Alice, you play as Alice, but I also want her on the cabinet. You know what I mean? So I want the Queen of Hearts and Alice. I don't want to exclude her because you are the person. No, you are just playing her tail throughout the whole game.
Yeah. Now, Rob, you were mentioning earlier about video and sound.
Yeah. I mean, you're starting from scratch here, completely. Correct. I assume these computers from Jpop didn't have full motion video.
No, there was nothing. This is what I mean. There was really, there was nothing. And that's one thing I thought in pinball. Trust me, this is one of the hardest things because me and Barry also done the art direction for the cabinets, and we also do the directions for the videos and that sort of stuff. And it's really hard to, make good animations. And so we have almost the same team that was working on the Big Lebowski, like sounds and that sort of stuff. We're at this stage, we're still working on video assets and some audio assets coming up. Because we probably want to show the game in a couple of months, so maybe 2 or 3 months, because we are not in a rush to bring out the game. We want to just slowly continue making the game better to show to the public. And maybe people ask, then why would you announce something now with a title? It's because we're here now. We're talking about this game. I can explain all the things we just talked about to give a little more insight what we do and how I want to do it, and not make the mistakes that maybe been done in the past. So
I think if we can cover the controversial aspects now, at least we won't be doing it on reveal day, which
Yeah.
will hopefully be a lot more exciting and not focus on those things.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a problem with it being J-pop, I guess you'll have to get over it or not buy the game.
Yeah, and it's like it's the same that I appreciate everybody's opinion, and I know it's I went into this knowing everything, so I only can blame myself if I'm upset with people because I knew this was going to happen. But if you have no secrets for this, then why should you? This is why I want this conversation. And if people have questions, or it's the same question we always get every day. Oh, is J-pop involved? Does he get any money? I said it to the whole world. He's not involved. He never will. He doesn't get a single dollar or a euro, whatever, out of it.
Yeah, I think it's the,
so
J-pop.
so Barry has this experience with a bit of a reclamation project. I mean, if for those who don't know, he's committed from a long time that he was not going to release a new title until they finished up with The Big Lebowski, which included making all these people who put down deposits in a somewhat similar situation whole, which congratulations, to Barry and team and yourself for doing that. Was there any conversation between you and him about like wanting to do this because it's another reclamation project? Like how did this come to be that you kind of are in this situation again to some degree?
Do you mean for the Achievers editions to make that whole, or just to?
Yeah, well, I know you guys aren't making anybody whole with anything you guys are doing. With
no, I understand.
Like, that's not, yeah. But I mean, I think it's kind of cool that you're doing this. You're bringing back something. Was it part of your decision at all, or was it just again like you wanted to do this game?
Well, I was in the talks with Barry, and he knew what I had, and he was like, "Can you pull this off?" He knew that I did a Big Bang Bar prototype for a certain company that was almost finished. So he knew. He said, "Can you pull it off?" I said, "Listen, give me a few weeks. Let me see what I can do, and then we're in the talks." So I did it. I showed him. He's like, we're almost at the end. We proved as a company that we can, get everything right that was wrong, maybe. He said, so I believe if you can do this right and we walk the same path at a good direction, then we can do a lot more. And here we are today.
So let's talk a little bit about that because, and this is something that we covered last night, wasn't it, Melvin? Where, there's been some flack flying around on Pinside, probably rightly so in some regards, but with information that's probably not accurate. So let's cover it. That they believe that Dutch aren't going to be able to deliver enough games in time because TBL took so long to produce.
Yep.
So I think that there's probably some, questions around what the capacity of the production team is or the manufacturing team is to be able to produce enough games. So talk us through all that.
Well, I think people also can see maybe that the negative has turned to something positive because I think Dutch learned from the experience. I think they know now as a company what not to do and what to do. And this is also why, and this is the thing now that we come to the DPX family, is that Dutch Pinball and DPX, even though they sound different, they also are much alike in a way that where we are building Alice in that building for the DPX, that's also going to be a manufacturing plant for the next cornerstone title for Dutch Pinball. It means that by the time we start building Alice, TBL will probably be at the end of his lifetime for now to close out the orders we are building now. And then we have enough time. So we're hoping to build from next year between 800 and 1,000 games a year with the expansion that there is now. So with a 500 run we can do, we hope to get Alice done, let's say in 8 months or whatever to a year.
Yep.
And then it means also by the time that Alice stops and the cornerstone titles, I don't want that people wait years and years for a game, but I can also say right now is that we can build between 800 and 1,000 games a year. If you say, can we build 2,000 games a year? No, but we learned. So we got to be realistic. I'm not going to say, even if the demand for a next cornerstone title is going to be huge, we try the best to do, but we also know now that we don't want to have people waiting. We listen to the community. This is why we are looking now for different distributors in the US. Also in Europe, we have a lot of distributors. We are listening to people to get games everywhere. So yeah, we have a good list of what not to do and what to do.
I think for some people it may still feel a little bit like a walk to a sprint, but you were talking about, what it really costs the company to make these previous people whole, and kind of how that affected your speed. Is that tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the thing is, of course, when you add the Achievers editions, then if a company makes money and you have to give away a game, so let's say every 5 games you build, you have to give 1 game away. That's taken, your growth away. But again, we try to stay small, be more efficient, and this is why we are at this stage. I think we do like between 40 and 50 games a month. So this is why we know, and this is just from one building. This is not even the other one. So we know we can.
That's about 600 a year, isn't it? Am I getting them
just for
right?
that one factory? And that's not even DPX running. Yeah. So it means that we can get that threshold from 1,000. We probably can make it next year. So we are trying in our best and every intention to cram these games out with the best quality possible and in the best timeline there is.
Well, look, if the next cornerstone is what everybody suspects that it is, I expect that you'll be working overtime in both of those factories.
Sorry, there's a couple things that have come out, and I don't know if they're from you or what, but we've got, this Q3 thing from you, and I'm curious. Can you still hear me?
You breaking up?
What happened, Rob? What happened, Rob? You're back.
Okay. So Q3, what does that mean in the context of Alice in Wonderland for everybody?
So Q3 is in Q3 we are showing the game. So that's in a couple of months. And then I hope that we can start production somewhere around November, December.
And are you taking deposits, or how's that going to work?
So this is a nice thing about it is that at this stage, like I told, is that the game is fully funded by ourselves. We also explicitly ask distributors and everybody not to take any deposit whatsoever, because we don't feel like that we should hold anybody's money for nothing. So yeah, there comes a time, of course, that we are probably taking deposits, but not before showing anything, because we want to show something. And if it's possible, I want people to play the game first before you buy it. But yeah, pre-order is an option. And we also have something implemented in that pre-order option to maybe make people feel a little bit better. But we also need to see how much interest is into the game when we show it to the public. But we're not having any intentions to just take pre-order money and just have them wait months and months. And we have something coming up about the pre-order about, there's a lot of stuff going on now about non-refundable deposits and all that stuff. And we're trying to figure out something in a good way that we can also prove to people that your money, if you put a pre-order down, is not non-refundable. So we try to see if we can work something out with transferable to different people if they want to, and to see if it's transferable even to another game in the next lineup we have. So, we give you multiple options. So, I don't like that term, non-refundable deposits like everybody's taking. So if we are taking orders at a certain time and deposits, but we try to protect in a good way your money, the distributor itself. So we try to protect everybody in a good way coming up.
Well, let's talk quickly about the money. So, have you got a ballpark figure for what Alice is going to cost?
At this stage, we're still checking out bill of material and all that stuff. We're in a part of Europe. It's a little bit more expensive here than if you build it somewhere else. All I can say is I can guarantee you 1,000% that the game will be under 15,000 USD. It's not going to be 14,999. So it's like, yeah, I'm under. So if I can if I can lower it 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, if I can, I will.
You talked about like wanting to pack this game, and obviously that's pretty subjective in the world we live in. But like,
True.
how does that? You also probably don't want to sell a $15,000 game. It sounds like. So how are you managing that, and what should we expect? Like, does it have a topper? Blah,
yes,
blah, blah.
It has a it has a topper, no flat plastics, sculpted, interactive. It will have powder coat trim. It will have all custom plastics on the playfield, sculpted by Leor. So no more plastic. Every plastic will all the plastic you can see will be sculpted, hand painted.
Wait a minute. Every single plastic?
Well, every single plastic. There are some protectors that are clear, but most, say, I think I already have 8 or 9 plastics that are fully sculpted. That's interactive. Also, the screen.
Interactive, did you say?
Yeah,
the sculpted plastics are interactive.
Some sculpts have LEDs in them and that sort of stuff. So it has a shaker motor, powder coated trim. So yeah, everything I can cram into it, I try to put it in. And every vision is
art blades or mirror blades.
Yep.
Art blades.
Yep.
How about lighting? I mean, is it going to be Elton over there, or what should we expect?
So it's fully So this is fully RGB. Everything. It's running the P-Rock system, but it's fully RGB. It has you can. It can be bright, but also not. So we have that you can put the settings for your GI brightness in multiple stages, insert brightness, flasher brightness. So you can control your own settings for that lighting show. So you don't want to put on a sunglass or whatever to play the game. You can play whatever you want and how.
I know we are LED friendly.
We had a very specific question from someone on Don's Discord. Will it have a lit back glass like TVL?
Yes.
Okay. Now we know. Expo. Will we see this at Expo? Do you have hopes for
I
that?
will do. I will try to move heaven and earth to get some games there, yes.
Make it happen, Melvin. Make it happen.
That's exciting.
We're counting on you. Okay. So who's
many questions? Davey, go for a bit. Davey, let you go for a bit. Yeah.
Who's on code? Who's coding? Who's doing the coding work?
At this stage, all I can say is Team Pinball.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
All right. Kuhn is working on also a different game, so we have Team Pinball working on, and I will be following up so I will do the same testing myself as we did on Funhouse. I like that. And I write the rules with Barry and Team Pinball and me, so we implement as much as we can, and we do a lot of testing ourselves. So because I like testing, and so yeah, that's the coding thing.
Are you using the Trello board method that I introduced when we did the Funhouse 2 project for the testing?
No, I'm too lazy to use it because I forget so many things to put in there. I'm a guy who puts everything on WhatsApp on 20,000 text or in Skype.
I bet everybody really appreciates that, Melvin.
Yes, they love me for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna be like mentally moving on to the question list. I see like 49 comments. I'm not gonna open it up quite yet. I want to be real clear. Yeah. I'll let you. I got one or two more. So 500 units. Is it just one model, or are there different models
Yes.
we're dealing with?
Yes, no, it's going to be one model, fully packed, everything
Okay.
in it. Because I was thinking about something black and white to do an homage or something, but it was too difficult. And it's always also in assembly, it's pretty hard because then you got to take one out or how many games. It's always going to be a little bit trickery. And in the end, I just said, you know what, 500 games, that's it, one version, everything in there, and I just want to give, and I just told today, I asked Barry, I said, if the bill of material is good, then, or whatever. I try to put everything in there I can. And even like I told you guys, is that if I can work with the community to make stuff more accessible, I try to do for everything you want to put extra, because I know everybody likes to add stuff to the games, because this is why you have your channel also.
Yeah, well, that is coming as very good news to me and Rob. I can assure you that, and you'll be getting annoying emails from me over the next 6 months, making sure that it happens, Melvin. So you might be sorry that you made that promise. But somebody in the chat just said, so there will be nothing left to mod. Sorry, Davey.
Oh no, trust me, Davey probably makes something crazy good that everybody wants. So
yeah, that's nice.
And there's enough space. There's still some space in the game left to put your things in.
Great, good to hear it.
So Davey, before we open it up, do you have any more that you want to get in?
Just the Playfield. Okay. Yeah, so somebody was just where are the Playfields being produced? It was TBL was Mirko, wasn't it? Is that right, Melvin? And then this is going to be Mirko again.
Well, I am in the middle of doing
TBA.
I'm doing something else at the moment. So all I can say is I'm trying to do something else that maybe I think the whole world appreciates. So all I can say is I try to go for the best possible in the world, and if it's possible, I will do so.
Okay. Well, that sounds very magical and
I know it's a bit mysterious,
vague.
Give me,
That's what I was looking for. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
So Davey, how about this? Let's. I want to propose something. So you start going through the chat and you queue up what you want to bring on. But before we do that, are you up for that?
Well, I would be, mate, but I don't think that I've actually got chat. I don't have the ability to pull the comments in, mate. So
okay,
you might have
I'm going to pull it up.
Unless
while I go through that, I'll do it. I got a question for you, Melvin. This is putting you on the spot a tiny bit. We've got a lot of different manufacturers, allegedly 14, maybe you're 15. I don't really know. They all seem to be kind of doing different things from a price point perspective, licensing. Who is DPX making games for in your mind?
For two people, for a pinball player and also people who like to collect special and I want you to be wowed when you look at a game. So it's for the collector and the player. And I am not, it sounds maybe a little bit strange, but this is one game that I, people buy the hype and, I buy the game because of it. You need to buy this game because you look at it, you find it attractive. You play it, you want to play more. And I also believe so you need to play this game and buy it if you want it. Just don't buy on FOMO or whatever. And I don't think you ever hear a pinball company say, just test our game first and then buy it. Everybody's like, no, buy my game, it's the best. There's so many games coming out at this stage. And I see beautiful manufacturers out there. So it's at this stage is hard because some games will sell themselves, but at this stage, everything is uncertain. So I can have the best talk here about my game, and then tomorrow something comes out that wows everybody again, and then again. But for me, this game is something that triggers me to have, because from the aesthetics, from the playability, as a true collector piece, I would want it.
Yeah. So the artwork,
if I'm
the artwork side of it is important to you. Yeah. Go ahead, Davey.
So if I'm a Jpop fan, which I am, you know, I love his games. Theater was probably the game that got me into pinball in my 20s. You know, played when I was younger, loved it, but it was only when I played theater in a pub in Bondi that I just became obsessed, and I've been obsessed ever since. So, you know, I'm a massive fan of his games. I think they're great. As a J-pop fan, if I go up to this game, you know, is this going to be something that's going to feel to me the same?
Yeah. Because, and Barry still hates me for it, because I think because those ramps are really hard to do, because I had to make a long ramp that shot well at a certain angle, but also make sure that the ball goes up to the mini playfield and that sort of stuff. I think I changed that ramp for 40 times because that design just didn't work. And this is also pretty difficult when making that game, is that I'm also a little bit tied up to a certain aspect of a design. So if you design something from scratch and people will say, why didn't you do that? Well, that's another conversation piece maybe, but you also are stuck with the lines that are on the paper. So if you move too much into the game, then it's no longer that J-pop game, or I changed too much of the aesthetic, so it doesn't look anymore like that. So it was really hard to keep the game looking the same, but also make it functional. And that was sometimes really challenging.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on to questions, but I got one more question. Like, how, and I think this is really important because we haven't covered this. Like, you talk about this stuff like you've been doing it for a long time. Obviously, you've been doing something for a long time. Like, what is your background to make you so knowledgeable of like those minutia causing that problem?
So, my history and background is for engineering and electronical. I used to work for companies doing pre-check inspections for Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini, and I made some parts for them and that sort of stuff. But I also was a big collector of prototype games. Like most people know that I collect games from a engineering standpoint. I like to understand why things work and why things don't work, or why is it expensive and that sort of stuff. And I learn a lot, even when building Alice. I was like, I put this ball guide there, it's perfect. And I shot a game, I was like, okay, that ball didn't go where I wanted to. And I was like, why? And then I looked at it, it's like, the ball guide is a little bit like this. Or it's like, so I learned so much from tinkering with those machines. So that's where I'm like a sponge. I try to look and understand why something works or something. And I'm not going to say here that this game is going to be flawless or whatever. Every pinball with so many moving parts will always have something that can happen, but I try to do the best to make it as fun, as flowy as possible. And I learned also what not to do. So that's good.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll move on officially. I think this might be kind of fun because we're going back in time here. We're going back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate. What I need to do is I need to log off and log back in. And then
I got it. I got it. I got it. So here's the first question.
It's not fun for me.
Are we seeing gameplay?
No. No, but
that's a no to gameplay.
But we come to a point where if we are going to show the game, not only a trailer, I also want to show some gameplay. And if I can, I have a different vision. It's not like we're in Europe, so it's a little bit trickier to get games to the US and people can play them. It's the same with TBL in the beginning. But I want to try to get as much games out to the distributors and to shows and all that stuff so people can experience the game first. And if you don't like the game, then don't buy it. I'm not going to, there are certain titles I don't like to play, and everybody's like, wow, this is the best game. Everybody likes what they like. So I'm not biased about my game. I understand if people say, gameplay shit. I don't like it. And I'm like, sure, whatever, you know. And this is how pinball's supposed to be. And I don't think that a lot of people talk that way because sales, sales, sales. And I don't think if you're a true fan of pinball, it's not all about sales. And of course, you know, money makes the world go round. But yeah, I try to.
We've got some easy ones for you. Where are you from?
I'm from.
Did not cover that.
Amsterdam, the Netherlands. My dad's, by the way, he's an American. This is why it's Williams, and my mom is Dutch, so that's Brouwer.
So your real last name is Williams.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Lots of gameplay, but of course, you know, we'll get there. Mm-hmm. Someone says you sound a tad Irish. Are they?
Oh wow! Did I? No. No, I did not.
So there's a couple questions about the paper prototype. Is that still a thing, or was that included in that locker?
No. So I believe, so the thing is, I have some stuff from that paper mache thingy. I believe it's still at AP. What I was told, it's still somewhere at American Pinball.
So you don't actually have that?
No, I have some stuff from it. So, but when I pulled off the computer, so everything you see there, I can, if I give it to my kids, they can probably mock it up.
Yeah, got it.
So, but no, I think it's somewhere still. I do have the translite and some stuff you see there. So I don't know if it's got broken down, but the last thing I heard, it was at AP somewhere.
You know, I sent that diagram to Kerry before and was asking him for his feedback on it because I just wanted to make sure it was accurate. And he didn't really know about AP being involved in this at all. And then you said something interesting on the pre-show about AP. What was the history of these titles with those guys?
So the thing was that when Zitoware went into trouble, he asked. So what a lot of people don't probably know is John started AP with Fassini. I believe it was a Fassini or the other guy. They started AP. I know a lot because in those computers were everything from the Zitoware days until Deeproot. So every conversation, every paper trail. So I know a lot more. I won't go into details, but I know that I believe they made a deal to finish those Magic Girls, and then they pay him making it. He was supposed to be doing Houdini. So everything went there on. And then Balser did Houdini. I think then he got into a thing with Pintasia to license some stuff out, so Pintasia could have done that. I think there was a settlement somewhere about a Magic Girl game or two being sent. And I think also in that part from Pintasia, I think Jeremy was paid some money, but I also have invoices from the Zitoware days where Jeremy got paid a lot of money. So I don't know what the controversial story about it is, and I don't want to go into much detail. So, and then from Pintasia, it went to Deeproot, and I know in between they had a lot of conversations. So this was also a debate, who owns what? Well, it's pretty easy. So then Deeproot took over. I know they had some conversations with AP and with Pintasia, and then it went to court in 2021 or 2022 when Deeproot was defunct and the SEC took over or whatever. Then Chris bought everything, so including all the intellectual properties, every asset, including, but not only limited to, all the art from Jeremy Packer, even the coding from Jim Askey. So everything Turner got. And if there was any ownership before that, nobody went to the courthouse and said, it's mine. No Pintasia, no AP, nobody. So Turner bought it. So his chain of title was perfect because it was all done by the courts. And I acquired everything from Turner. So my chain of title. So if anybody in the world believes they own something, I'm very sorry, but then I can't help it because then you got to go to the courthouse again. And then, and even when Deeproot went to court and all that stuff, everybody in the world knew it. And nobody came there to say or knock on the door, say, hey, Jpop owes me this, or AP owes me that, or Pintasia owes me this. And I know it's a little bit strange stories, but this is how that stuff went from You know, there probably is some stuff from Magic Girl at AP. There's probably some stuff, I don't know. I think 20,000 people have something from all those games. So where is it in the end? I don't know. But in the end, I have all the assets. I have all the
Can I just
the
draw
deep root
attention?
thread on Pinside? The deep root thread on Pinside is going to be perking up their ears here. We're gonna hear some comments on this one.
Can I also just draw attention to the fact that Carrie Hardy has just said that Melvin and him could be drinking buddies. So I'm not exactly sure.
Well,
I'm
he
not
has
exactly
other
sure what
questions,
you said. He does, yeah. Not sure what you said, but I think there's a bromance blossoming there.
Oh, that's always good. Just give me 1-2 gin tonic, and I will tell everything.
So Carrie does want to know what you think of Venom. Are you comfortable commenting on such a topic?
Well, the thing is, how can I say it? There's a cup of tea for everybody, and even though maybe I don't like it, there's some other people who likes it. The only thing I think that all the games from the last few years with that sort of titles and that Marvel-y thing all look the same. And they feel the same. And it's just the thing I don't like in pinball is that open playfields. I really don't like. If you walk up to a game and it's like, oh, there's something in the back. I don't want that. And I know that a lot of people don't want a lot of stuff in front of the flippers because they're blocking shots, and it's giving you ricochets and all air balls and that sort of stuff. But I think we're now at a stage that we want more and more. So, but for me to answer his question, no, Venom is not a game I like. There's your answer.
Yeah, well, it's fast. We got a lot of these questions. I think we covered on this for the most part, but definitely a good amount of questions coming in is like, why start with baggage? Why not start from scratch? It sounds like this kind of snowballed for you guys. Was there ever a point where you were talking about doing something from scratch, or was it always hit this?
No, it was because, to be honest, it was never my intention. I also worked for some pinball companies secretly, for making, doing Big Mac Bar prototypes and that sort of stuff. Well, it's already expired, so I can talk about it. But I also made some top redesigns and some other things. So I always worked in that way. Sorry, what was the question for?
They just, why did you ever think about starting from scratch, or why didn't?
No. So the thing is that I had so many information from that locker. It was never my intention to go like, oh, let's build a pinball today. And when I already acquired everything, it just pushed me further to make this happen. And I never had the intention like, let's start over, because there were so many good things. And I believe that even though a lot of people got hurt by some titles, I think there's a lot of potential in these titles. But it's the same as about Magic Girl. These guys from the Netherlands, they did an amazing job making a game that didn't do anything to doing something. And my chance now is, because I own all the rights and all the properties and everything, if I wanted to, I can even make Magic Girl from a new standpoint. So all the mistakes that were put in this game, I can take out and reinvent, re-engineer to make it a better game. So yes, you can start making a new game. First of all, it's a lot of money making new games, new designs. And so no, the intention was never to make it from scratch. And it was I found that out very easy when I just opened up the lockers. It was just a magical feeling. I was like, okay, I got to do this one. I already have
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being direct about that. I mean, obviously you could spin that however you wanted to.
There's no need.
But at the end of the day, yeah. So we got a really important one here. Is Bartholomew the farting frog going to be in the game?
No, trust me. It's like I said with Barry when we did the art. It's like I was looking at Barry and it's like, oh, you see these characters? I'm like, no, dude, they look awful. Just get them out. So this is why I'm saying, for all these really diehard people, they think, trust me, I'm not going to put every character in that game. So I'm sorry if you don't buy the game now because the frog isn't there.
Then you need to question your life decisions.
Yeah.
My dad chimes in and says would like wooden legs. My question to
I'm
you.
sorry. The thing is, we tried wooden legs, but because of the weight of the translite in the Dutch pinball games, they break.
There it is. Are you taking any, like, are you doing anything outside of the box with this, or is it going to feel kind of like Lebowski in terms of the guts?
Well, outside of the box is always a little bit special because I know people are expecting a lot of crazy mechs and that sort of stuff, but of course you have the magnets, and I think so from Twilight Zone it was a pretty small playfield, so, and it's not really controllable. You have to get the ball into, to the hole and that sort of stuff. But on this mini playfield, it was a little bit more difficult because you need to shoot the ball further. You got to hit targets. There's a Newton ball on there. So I added some stuff, and also it was pretty difficult because magnets get up, they heat up pretty fast. You still want to play the mini playfield. So some things were pretty challenging, but also good in a way that it was never done before, I think. So there's some tight shots. And I believe that there are some custom shots in there that look like every time you shoot a certain shot, and I call it the clock shot, that ball is going to send it not where you think it's going to send it. So that's nice, I believe. And if people like games that are always predictable, then don't play this game. Then play Venom. Then maybe play Venom.
Play Venom. How about some kind of Voodoo type glass? Are we going to see that in the game?
Yes, included.
Awesome.
And probably we're trying to still think, and I can think about it, but we try to do something special with a glass that I don't think was ever put in there. So I tried to do something, not like special mirrors or anything, but there's something I want to do with the back glass that is helping.
We've got some love for Barry. How many times did you have to get Barry out for drinks before you guys were able to make this happen?
To be honest, I didn't do anything. We just looked at each other. I showed him what I can do, and he was in. And
all right,
it's not always...
Carrie likes you too, so that's good.
Good.
Yeah. So I don't know if we really, at least I didn't hear it. Like, how did you guys make that initial connection? Did it happen recently, and this happened really quick, or have you guys had a long-standing relationship?
No, I was there, because I have a lot of friends in distributors in here in the Netherlands, and I know a lot of people in the pinball industry. So I also met Barry in a kind of way, through distributors, and we got to talks. And I'm a type of open guy, and I just said to him, "Listen, this is my plans. What do you think about it?" And like I said, I showed him what I can do, and he was like, I think you can pull this off, and we can do it in a good way. So why wouldn't we? And focus on a different market. Everybody's pushing as much games as possible. And to be honest, I don't even want to push it. Even if I could sell today 1,000 Alice, I would never want to do it, because I was the guy even wanted to limit it to 350. And this is all about, so here we come to the DPX part again, what I talked about with Barry, is that we are using, so now we have time to do Alice, but if there comes a time that there's not enough time to do another DPX title, then we just stop. And I work inside DP as well, and we're trying to make the new game for DP and everything around it, and that goes full attention to that. And maybe in 2 years, I don't know, if I feel I like doing Magic Girl, and I feel like we're only going to do 100 because we have just a limited time frame, then we only going to build 100. And it's not all about money. It's more about what can we do. I already have everything, so I can start whenever I want to. And that's the vision. It's not the need, but it's the want. And that's something for DP. And this is also, DP is really healthy. All the achievers made whole, and everything is right. And we're here to stay. So if people think, oh, Alice is not going to... It doesn't make any difference for DP or whatever if Alice does or doesn't sell. It's just the wanting. We want to do this.
So when you guys move off the line of Alice, which you will sooner than later, based on the time frame, are you going to be working on their Cornerstone game in some capacity as well?
Yes. I will help
Got it.
them wherever I can, and they will help because they also have a great team there. And I listen. You know, I'm a type of guy who listens to everybody, and I hope everybody listens to me. And if somebody tells me 10 times something is wrong, then I'm going to try to figure out why it's wrong, because people don't say things for a reason. So also in Dutch, where I can help, I help. If I see mistakes on games getting made, or I see in the designing stuff is not right, I will redesign it to make it better. So we help each other. And this is why DP and DPX are just one family. It's just that the number is different.
Very cool. The Lebowski Pinside thread wants to know if Renz will be supporting Alice in Wonderland.
1,000%.
Will he be getting a machine?
Yes.
Yay!
He's the first one who's getting a machine because he knows how to. He needs to know how to fix it. And I can say, no, it never breaks down. But come on, it's a pinball machine.
He needs.
For those who don't own a Lebowski, Renz is the madman and support on Pinside and all over helping everybody out. You don't have to give us 5 here, but curious about some of your favorite games.
I have a love for GGP. I think they make amazing games. I do believe I have Wizard of Oz on my number 1 because I really like that magical feeling and everything. I like Pirates. I like Big Bang Bar because of that crazy 90s vibe. You know, there's some good things to it. I like, and everybody's saying, oh, you got to say Lebowski also on that list but Lebowski's not my theme, you know, it's not in my top 5. I do like Alien, but then from the Highway days, I have that version as well. It's not that I don't, but I like the immersion of the screen also in the playfield. And I am a sucker for I have a Pirates of the Caribbean with a triple disc system. And I do like that game, really. So that's about.
They're pretty left field choices, you know, in a lot of ways. Aren't they?
That was a very, very interesting. I mean, obviously those are all popular games, but
sure, but you wouldn't hear too many people listing those as their top 5.
No, I don't have I don't like. Trust me, I don't like Medieval Madness. I don't like Indiana Jones. They're not my type of games. I don't like, let's say, Star Trek. All the series, but I do like the game. I have nothing with Star Trek itself, but I do like the game playing, but it's not in my. So there are certain, you know, this is why I say everybody likes everything they want. So I don't. Yeah, sorry.
What is it about those 5 titles? Do you think? What's the common thread?
I think on JGP it's pretty easy. It's the immersion, you know, it's the theme. It's like the Pirates, it's like Wizard of Oz. There's something about those things that they can pull off really good, and that's one thing I still believe JJP does a good job. You know, it's the immersion, it's the they have something that makes it whole.
Is there a mechanic from, say, like Woz or Pirates or any of those games you listed that made it into Alice that definitively sticks in your mind that you kind of made happen because you like it so much?
No, not really. The only thing I try to put in there is all these sculpted assets because I do like, you know, that 3D, that feeling that's a world under glass. Also from a collector standpoint and from an art point. So I try to get the atmosphere in there. This is why I opted for everything and I know, and this is why also I'm basing everything on home collecting, because I know for, you know, on sculpted plastics you have the problem with ball hangs and that sort of stuff. It can happen. So I also designed clear plastic to be on top of those so there are no ball hangs. But for me, if I just use flat plastics, I would lose the aesthetics, you know. So I try to so I looked at those games. And because most of GGP games have sculpts like Pirates and like Wizard of Oz, and so those are my things I look at.
Gotcha. Tell us about the musical score. I don't think we've talked about that too much. What kind of feeling should we get from this?
Adventurous, funky at sometimes because we have the Mad Hatter. But overall, there can be dark environments sometimes when you meet, like the Queen of Hearts. So it's an atmosphere that fits the theme right. What you can expect from an adventure game, from that sort of type with musical orchestras and that sort of stuff. We are looking into the voices now. This is something we are trying to work on now. And so we are just from the voice thing, we are just getting there. We're not.
So there's going to be some voice acting. Obviously,
Yeah.
TBL. Obviously there would have been a sound engineer involved in TBL, but the majority of the music. The music was rewritten, wasn't it, for TBL a lot of the time? So is it the
I
same
believe so, yes.
composer? Yeah. Is it
Yeah.
the same
So
composer?
that person is probably that person who worked on that TBL sound stuff. He's gonna do the same sound stuff for Alice. So he's gonna write up the new stuff, and I already have a lot of stuff in there in the game now. But you try to mix everything together so it works. And everybody knows from day one when you release a game, nothing is going to be finished. And this is something I always want. We are going to support as much as possible, listen to feedback, and I'm not going to launch a game as like that. Like everybody knows from Dutch, we try to fulfill everything through the years. So it's not, I'm trying to make everything better. So if there's an update, we're trying to keep everything updated from day one. And the game code will be finished from a wizard mode standpoint. So everything will be in there from day one.
Will you do updates, though, beyond that?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. This is something I really want. And I want, this time, I want to listen to the feedback. I know that if you look at Pinside or other forums, it can be a cesspool of negativity sometimes. But I try to be as open. I also want to hear the feedback. So if people don't like a mode, tell me why. So, and if we come to the point again, if 10 people tell me it's not good, then why don't we change it to something better? And this is why I want to listen more to people to make the game more fun, because it can play well. Sorry.
I was going to say, how are you planning to sort of manage that process? Obviously on Pinside, it's generally hype threads and then owners threads.
Yeah, well,
and you can participate on those or not, but sometimes they get a bit wild, and
yeah,
it's
so
not always the best way of obtaining that feedback, I suppose, sometimes. So, do you have any ideas around that?
Yeah, so I don't think so. I'm not gonna lie. Everybody looks at Pinside and everybody follows your own threads and see what people tell you, and I think everybody does it. So I'm not gonna say, oh, we don't do that. I don't think we are going to react in a way, but we are reading. So if people have a lot of comments and certain comments come back, then you can see that there's a certain type of vibe we need to make better. So yeah, I don't have a line out now, but I will look into the future to make everything better.
Okay.
So this next question, there were literally Vegas odds on whether or not it was going to be asked.
Come on.
Is Alice going to eat the ball?
Well, there's a rabbit hole. Somebody's gonna. Well, hold on. There's a rabbit hole, so somebody's gonna eat the ball.
Okay.
That question was from Rob Melvin, who we worked on in Funhouse too. So I'm pretty sure that's Rob's handle. He goes by Robotron.
Well, all I can say is I don't know what she's gonna do with the ball, but I know that there's some certain aspects, like we have a Cheshire house. He's going to eat the ball for sure. So he's going to give it to you back as well. Not in his mouth, but he's probably going to give it to you back.
In that case, I'm out.
Okay.
Jokes and quirkiness. So what are we going to see as far as that goes?
Yes. I have some things in mind because, of course, everybody knows there's you have the Mad Hatter, of course. You have the crazy rabbit that sits on his table. He just plunks out every strange thing. So I want also some strange stuff in there, to make you laugh even if you're in a serious thing.
We were getting a couple questions from Carrie about voiceovers. Anybody in the works on that?
Well, at this stage, we are trying to find some good actors and actresses to make that voice commands good. We're also, and this is where AI comes in, this is something we are checking with, because the nice thing about AI is that these days it's so good that you can give it everything and they can give everything to you back without searching for something. And also makes our lives easier maybe in the future, but this is a big maybe. So we're still looking into what is the best for this game and what's most suitable.
I don't know the background on this question, but maybe you do.
Will any products be coming out of the animated topper? In what way?
Yeah, maybe Chris, if you can kind of clarify that a little bit. Octo manufacturing, I don't know what that means either. Do you?
Probably if we are Octoman. So we're probably setting up, if we want, we can build multiple games, multiple titles at facilities. Because when I designed Alice, I went to Barry and said, listen, what is in TBL? And he said this. I said, okay, you know what? Chuck everything in a box, give it to me, and I will try to implement as much as I can. So we use the same parts. So I don't know if he means that, but we can run multiple games at a certain line because we use so many of the same parts.
Gotcha. A couple things here, but I'm curious about Stop and Go and your opinion on Stop and Go. And
yes.
Whether
well, I can tell you, it's pretty. I'm not gonna lie. Alice has Stop and Go. Why? It has magnets. It has a scoop where you can get mysteries or emote starts. So yes, it will be Stop and Go. But I also think Stop and Go is also easy because it gives me time to focus again, to get ball control, to experience what's on the screen, to experience the game, and not be like bashing those buttons. Oh, where did my ball go? And this is where we come into play that my kids from a 10-year-old can still control the ball and have fun with the game.
What about on the pro version? How many flippers in this bad boy? Can you tell us that?
Yeah, 2 flippers.
2 flippers. Okay. Good. I don't, Davey, we dropped the ball on that one. How did we not ask that question?
I don't know. Well, it's got the Magna flippers too. Are we calling them Magna flippers?
Call those flippers. Okay, let's say 4 flippers.
4 flippers, yeah.
Subways.
Yes, Subways. We have
Subways.
2.
Lots of people saying great show. Appreciate those comments, guys. I really like Melvin's approach to creating a top shelf pinball machine. Looking forward to supporting Alice. Awesome.
Thank you very much. It's going to be
Davey. Davey, you want to chime in with a couple of your questions? I'm going to keep digging here.
Yeah. Well, look. I mean, one of the things you were mentioning about Stop and Go too. I mean, look. I mean, obviously, everyone sort of talks about whether a machine is flowy or not, and we've sort of elevated that to be like the pinnacle of, to the point where now a lot of people, say, oh, the pro's better because there's not the delay in getting the ball to your flippers and stuff. But Rob, that interview that you sent me earlier today, which was the Jpop interview, partway through that he was talking about Stop and Go, and how it's a design decision that he's made to implement that in his games because it gives him time to sort of assess the play field, catch his breath, whatever. Mm-hmm. So actually, the fact that Melvin, you said that this one's Stop and Go. It's actually a J-pop thing to do that. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've sort of elevated flow to be like the holy grail of pinball, but actually there's room for everything.
Yeah, and trust me, the game is fast. You can shoot the orbit shots that are fast. The ramp shots are crazy fast. Or, there's some shots because the entrance for one ramp is so far in the back that I have to up the power on the flippers so you have a good control and there's a lot of speed in there. But then again, if you want ball control, I'll try to give you ball control in a certain way, with a Stop and Go to just get your ref, just shoot it in the scoop and a mode starts or whatever, and you can just go like, okay, just give me a few seconds, get the ball back, hold it on the flipper, and continue.
You had mentioned the flipper experience, the capacitors. I know you guys are taking it even a step further than even Lebowski on this one.
Yeah, we upped the capacitors. I think it's now double sized. So there's I try to get as much as better products in there to have a little bit more ball control, to have mini, so you can mini flipper a little bit more. So I try to do my best to make that ball control much better if possible.
And you also mentioned to us yesterday about how you've sort of, we talked about how this is a P-Rock system.
Correct.
Which
P3
TBL
Rock, yeah.
was as well. Yeah, sorry, P3 Rock. But you've taken it a step further than TBL in terms of sorry, so I was going to say certain boards sort of implementing their own logic around certain actions happening, so that slings and things like that are more responsive. Can you tell us about that?
I think we are now already implementing it in TBL, but I believe that some things that are always firing, like the flippers and the slingshots and that sort of stuff, they're implemented, hard-coded already in the board itself. So if you send a command, it doesn't have to go first to the computer and then back, because then it's going to lag a little bit, and you cannot. If you flip, it doesn't understand. So if you flip a little bit, the computer doesn't understand it because you flip so many times that it just loses the track. If you implement it straight from the architecture of the hardware, you can have the more control over it. So we try to maximize the workflow of that P3 Rock.
Okay. I had a question too about the lockers. I know we're sort of going back in time a little bit to talk about this.
Come on, let's go.
Love the lockers. Fascinating. Right. So you said that you got access to like laptops, machines, etc., right? Like, so laptops are usually password protected. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they are, whatever. Was there anything in there that you couldn't get access to because it was encrypted or?
John was pretty easy. Everything was Magic Girl password.
Was it?
Magic Girl X or whatever.
So hang on. So did you just like brute force?
Bro, no, I just went, you know what? And some, I think most of the things were non-password protected, or what he did, he made a screenshot of all his passwords in the computer that didn't have a password. So then it was like, okay, bingo. And I was like in, and one of those, and I have, but there are some drives, because back in the Williams days, I think that there was like zip drives, and even older than that with special drives and everything. And those use a old Mac and that sort of stuff. So that's some stuff I still got to go through. But I have like 200 floppy disks with all his stuff he did at Williams. So I have like 10 or 8 different types of prototypes from every game he worked on. Even some, I have all his pencil art and all designs from some older games at Bali from the 80s. But yeah, there are still some drives that have to be discovered.
Yeah, I mean, look, even finding something that you could read a floppy disk off these days would be a challenge.
Well, I bought an old Mac.
Yeah.
I went and saw an old Mac from the 90s that had a special drive, because you had the floppy disk and something that was a little bit higher than that and has a SCSI and stuff. I just went out and bought an old computer on a marketing site.
Back in the day when they still called them Macintoshes.
Yes, exactly. And then I could have. So what I'd done, then I started reading everything, copied it to a USB drive, and then took everything out and went through everything and all. And it was like, it was like Christmas,
Yeah.
And I want to share all those things in the future, if possible, because it's part of history. It's part of everything. So even I know, it's the same as Jpop. He never hurt me, or I know he hurt a lot of other people, but I don't think he really was always an intention to scam people. I think it was just his, his inexperience in finishing something that led to all these disasters. You know, and it's the same. People asked me, what are you going to do with John, because it's his concept, or what are you going to do with Jeremy? So I can easily say to people, John is mentioned on my game as a concept designer because it was his concept. So to take him out of the aspect would be, you know, lying to myself because I started from something. It's the same as Jeremy. I asked him, listen, do you want to be credited for the art? And he never replied back. He never. So from that point, I didn't mention him right now because it's easier to add something than to take something away. So if he's listening, he deserves all the respect in the world for this, and there's a place for him in this game.
I mean, it's by the by, really. Anyway, though, isn't it? I mean, obviously, you know, credit should be given where credit is due.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, you know, everybody knows the history of this game. Everybody knows who was the concept designer. Everybody knows that Jeremy was involved, and so, you know, it's not like that's being covered up in any way.
No, I don't want to. And I had some people saying, "Oh, do you really want him? You know, do you want to mention him?" Yeah, I do, because this, in the end, this all comes down to the first company, that's Zitoware. You know, it comes always down to that certain stuff. So I have no secrets. I have nothing to hide. And if I can share something that's, no, I don't want to expose John or anybody else. And I have enough information on those computers to, I think, make a lot of companies miserable at this stage. But it's not my intention. The only thing that's my intention to make the pinball industry better. So if I can share something that is nice for everybody to see, then I will show that to the world.
Are you excited about the opportunity to bring some of these other titles that you've gotten from this package to life? Like, should we expect that, or is it hard to say at this point?
No, it's really hard to tell because I think this is why I started with Alice. Alice was something that was the least, you know, confrontational, how do you call it? But it's different than Magic or even Razza, you know. That's still going, and at this stage, let us first focus on Alice. You know, let's get Alice out, prove that we can finally show a game. And it's not that we built the best game in the world. It's that maybe some people like it, some don't. But at least let us do what we believe is good, and then see what the future unfolds. And it's not in my intention to say, oh, next game is going to be Magic Girl. But I do have now a new blank canvas on that game. So, and I have everything in SolidWorks. I can redesign the game to make it work. So if I wanted to, I can. Same as Razza. Razza, I finished it in a certain way, new ramps installed. When I got those games, they weren't working. I knew exactly what was wrong with it. And I fixed the games up. They play great. Of course, there's some stuff in there that I would have done differently. So, but for the focus now is on Alice, and we'll see what the future holds. And if we're too busy with DP's next cornerstone title, we might not bring any game out for the next years, because that's, you know, that's the most important thing.
How's it been with the new distributors, and how are you feeling about the response you're getting from them in terms of people interest? Is it going well so far?
To be honest, it's going really well. And of course, we haven't seen, I haven't shown a game yet to people. So, but at this stage, I was really impressed with some certain feedback from distributors. And I think, to be honest, and I think the market is more in the US than it's in Europe, because I think it always was that pinball is more, you know, the sales were always, I think 70 or 60% is the US, 25 to 30% is Europe, and then 10% is like Canada, and then you got Australia, you know. So I think Alice is different in Europe than it's going to be in the US. So my focus is more on the US market.
So, you know, there's a ton of, yeah. There's a ton of Dutch fans. I mean, so much love for Dutch on multiple levels, and we've got some exciting times for Dutch coming up. We've got another title from Dutch Pinball coming possibly later this year. There's a lot of rumors about it being what pinball people consider a AAA title. If I can only buy one Dutch machine in the next year and a half, like, what is your advice for people who have this decision to make?
Only thing I can say is we try to meet demand as much as possible. You know, we're not gonna say if we can make it 10,000s of games, we want to. So I don't think there should be a FOMO or anybody in line screaming at something to get something. I think everybody should get their fair chance or getting a game. So we try to make it best for everybody. This is why we're setting up so many distributors now. And so there was only 1 or 2 distributors in Europe. And since we started DPX and I tried to expand the brand as DP as well, we now have so many distributors in Europe. We are trying to get more distributors, maybe 5 or 6 in the US, with CoinTaker being a massive distributor. But just to get people, to get people more choice, to get those games out faster. So I'm trying to do as best to get DP on the level everybody wants to be.
Awesome. Davey, do you have any last questions for our friend here?
No, but I've got a question for you, Rob. Have you called your distributor about Alice yet?
I'll be completely honest. Like, I think, like a lot of people that have a general interest, you want to get your name on there. But talking to you last night really changed my perception of this. And obviously knowledge is key to that. But this is an exciting title. I think that price and quantity is such a hot topic right now, and I feel like you guys are offering something that a lot of people just want. Like, if I'm going to be asked to pay, somewhere in that 14 to 15 range, I want it to be special. And special is 2 things. One, it's like packed, your definition of packed, and the other is like it's not going to lose $6,000 in 3 months. And the only way that happens is that it's not oversaturated. It's not about being limited. It's about saturation. And like, it seems like a good fit for what we have options for right now. You guys are kind of like filling a hole, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's also pretty hard because the thing is that everybody's expectancy for something is different. So if I can call it packed, and if maybe there's some game people who see the game is like, oh, is that what he meant? Whatever, It can happen, People are not,
for sure.
They're not blown away, and they said, "Oh, is this the hype about or whatever?" Then that game is not for you. Move on, get something else. But there are, it's like, and also, I mean, if we probably announced this game 2 years earlier, back when the Corona stuff was happening, this probably was sold out even before because of the FOMO. And I think it's maybe also good that stuff is happening right now because it's pushing manufacturers to be on the edge, to create something that doesn't sell. And I believe that magic touch I try to bring in. So maybe the gameplay is not killer like everybody's expecting. Who knows, But I try to implement some stuff that never was done. Was there ever a game put out with all sculpted plastics from Leor or whatever? No, it was always mods. And it's like, I know a few hundred euros for a mod or a plastic or whatever. So in that way, I try to be doing something new.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, this is an exciting title. We're going to know more in the coming months. I respect you guys taking your time. It sounds like you're doing it the way that makes sense for you and works for you. So we'll see the content when we see it. Davey, this is your last chance, man. You want to get on one more?
No,
keep look, going. Got enough time.
Look, people are saying, look, I think there's been a little bit of concern for Leor over the last 6 to 12 months, just because he's kind of dropped off the radar a bit, both in terms of sort of the direct-to-consumer mods. And I think people are a little bit concerned about him. So, Don's just asked, have you heard from Leor? Do you speak to him on a regular basis?
Yes,
Is he okay?
I talk with him daily. So to me, I talk with him daily. And you know what it is? It's always difficult because there can always be happening something, or it's Leor, or it's my coder. And if I got to worry about everything that's going up, then I can probably better stop and sit on my couch and just, cry all day. But all I can say is I am in contact every day with him, and we're going forward as we speak. So for me, it's all good. And I don't know.
He's okay. He's okay.
For me, he's okay.
He's in a good place.
Don, Leor doesn't want to work on Wick mods. Sorry, leave him alone.
Sorry, he's too busy for me.
This is
this is the reason. This is the reason. So maybe you gotta blame me that he doesn't respond anymore because he's working for me, finishing all this stuff up.
And that's fine if that's if that is the reason.
No, I don't know. I really don't know. Probably not.
Yeah.
So.
You know how these rumors and stuff circle around Pinside and stuff. So
this is exactly
genuinely
why,
just concerned.
This is exactly why we're here now. Of all those, I read all the gossips, and it's like this and this, and you couldn't be far more from the truth. So at least now I got some stuff out, and if people have more questions, I'll be happy to answer them at a later stage. It's fine for me. I have no secrets.
Well, we'd be more than happy to have you back again too, Melvin. I think it's been a really productive process. I think people in the chat have been, from just reading some of the comments that people have been making here. I think people are really, excited about the format. I suppose. There was a couple of comments around how. People would prefer all of the, manufacturers to sort of do these Q&A sessions with people so they can, ask the questions that are on their mind. So I think it's been a really productive process, and, we really appreciate you coming on and giving us, 2 hours of your time to go through everything.
Yeah, and I think this is, something I think more people should do. And I think this is something that's good also going into, the production of Alice or showing off Alice, and even for the Cornerstone game coming up from Dutch. Maybe it's good that we, every once in a while, just open up, see what's happening, ask for some feedback from the community to see exactly what's going on, what did they expect from a game, and all that sort of stuff. Because that, in the end, everybody who's listening right now are our customers, and that's the most important thing. Selling a game is one, but if you can only sell one game from your company, then your company stops. So you got to make sure that they're coming back for more. So if you cannot make everybody happy, but if you combine all the forces, we're in a stage that's needed. Games don't sell by themselves. Community buys the game, so the community sells. And that's more important.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
JM says we need to get in line now for Expo. It's gonna be a banger.
I will try to
do my Melvin. It's happening. You know what it is. Now. It's happening.
Do it.
And this is again. I will try to do my best to get the games at Expo. Also, I'm trying to take as much time. So if it was for me, the game would be presented earlier, but sometimes stuff happens, with part supply. Even on prototyping, I just had ball guides in, and they were just manufactured wrong for 2 millimeters, but they don't fit, and it sets you back another week or something. And that is just normal stuff that happens in life. Leor or you, Stumbler, everybody has something, make a mod, and then a part is wrong. Stuff happens. So delays are being pushed, and I'm not rushing a game to the market that I already know that has an issue. So then I rather wait 1 month longer, or I tell people, listen, you want this game at the Expo, fine, but expect that this is not finished yet. Maybe animations are not finished, or maybe music is not finished. And if you can accept that, then, you go into something with a more open mind. So I will try to get the game at Expo. If something happens, why it couldn't be done, I will also explain why it couldn't be done. But for now, I will. So everybody's push Barry, push me harder to get this game to Expo.
Well, mate, if you could just stop doing 2-hour podcasts, every night, then maybe
I can start working 2 hours more on Alice. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Davey, what do we got? What do we got coming up next week? And we're going to be back on Monday. What do we have?
Yeah, well, we're going to be joined by Carol from TPMF, the Pinball Mod Factory, which who I met Carol and his associate at Expo when I met you in person for the first time, Melvin, last year. And look, those guys have just been, doing some, really interesting mod work. I've been sort of helping them out on some on the technical front, sort of supplying with them with some boards and stuff. So we're going to get Carol on the show, have a chat with what he's up to, and get him involved in mod world. Get him giving his opinions on what the latest and greatest is in the modding space.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff been dropped. We've been off for a little while. Melvin, thank you so much for spending all this time with us. I mean, it's not been just this show. It's been over the last, frankly, months, just kind of back and forth, putting this together. We're totally honored to have you on our show, and I'm personally excited about the game. I mean, this thing sounds amazing. It sounds different. It sounds fun. So that's all the things we want in pinball at this point. So really, really excited about it.
Yeah, I really appreciate your taking the time to talk with me, and just, everybody's listening right now, watching. It's like, I can do this again, no problem. Any questions, I would love to. And I always want to be open and transparent about everything, because everything was a little bit shady in the past with all the things that were. So this is the only thing we can do to make everything better. Open up. There are no secrets, just everything for pinball to make it better.
Awesome. All right, guys, signing off. This has been a great show. Again, we'll see you next week on the 17th of June. And everyone have a great night. Appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. See ya. Bye. Bye.